Hello, hi, my name's Rich, and today I want to talk about my predictions for 2021 with Dungeons and Dragons books. And as you can tell, I got a green screen for Christmas, so let's put something from Eberron on there today. Now, starting off with my predictions, and I think that first thing I want to say is there'll probably be 3 books announced and released in 2021 from Wizards of the Coast. I think with Dungeons and Dragons and the whole 2020 situation has slowed down production a little bit, but I would say 3 is a good solid number, judging from the past 5 years and how frequently the books have been released. This is the day before the announcement, and I believe that there's going to be a book announced with regards to the Feywild. And this may be a source book, it may be a campaign setting book, I'm not sure. But the reason for this is because on Dungeons and Dragons Online, D&D Online Neverwinter it's called, they generally hold events that coincide with the release of a new book. The book's not been announced yet, but they're having a Feywild event, so that's as much evidence as I need to justify thinking that. The other big update is that Dragonlance. There was a lawsuit in late 2020, apparently it's been resolved, and the writers are going to be releasing a trilogy of books. This news has just came out a couple of hours ago, and yeah, I'll be honest with you, a lot of people that got into D&D from 5th edition don't know a lot about Dragonlance. It's more of a 80s, 90s sort of thing with 2nd, 3rd edition. So I think it's a new setting that has a fantastic opportunity for reprints, anthologies of old stories, and it has the potential to get a whole new audience. So if they market and push it correctly, this could be a massive thing for D&D. So the third book I'm predicting is possibly a Runeterra book. Riot Games have started using Runeterra, the League of Legends setting, in different styles of games. They have the card game, they have an up-and-coming fighting game that they basically bought the development team that made Rise of Thunder, the mech-based fighting game from a couple of years ago. And to further back this up, there was a couple of Runeterra classes that were released last year as a limited time thing on D&D Beyond. So that was probably just focus testing, seeing how people reacted to it, and by all accounts it was really positive. The only bad thing about it was that it was limited time. If you're interested in checking out some of those classes, then look at Death by D4. He has some great videos detailing the classes that were released last year. My next prediction is that they had Rime of the Frost Maiden, which was a horror-themed icy adventure, and continuing the trend of going back to legacy topics, reusing that for new adventures, a Ravenloft. I think it'd be a great spooky October Halloween-themed release, and to be honest with you, Grim Hollow is unofficial D&D, but it was wildly successful, and if Wizards of the Coast don't see that and try and capitalise off that, then it would be a missed opportunity. Sure, we have rules for vampires as a monster, but there are no concrete rules that I'm aware of for D&D 5th edition that deal with vampirism and people turning into werewolves, and the whole idea of vampires, werewolves and eldritch horrors ties in perfectly. It reminds me of that module from Magic the Gathering a few years ago, and I forget the name of it, but I'll put it down in the description. So, next on my list, Magic the Gathering. Just like we were saying, they could release a new Magic the Gathering setting book because Wizards of the Coast are going to be releasing a D&D themed Magic the Gathering set. So all of the cards will be based around D&D themed topics. So a bit of cultural cross-pollination there. The fantastic opportunity for a crossover. They've already done it with the Eberron sourcebook, so yeah, that's my next prediction. The next one I want to cover is Divinity Original Sin. The reason for this is because Larian Studios, the developers of Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2, recently released I don't know if you would call it a beta or a test footage, or they released Baldur's Gate 3. And it was a little bit janky, early access, but Larian Studios are famous for taking early access builds and reiterating on what they've done and building it to a really solid, polished final product. So they are good enough to be trusted with the Baldur's Gate IP, and again, you could reverse it and have a Divinity Original Sin based setting book. If you like the content I'm making at the moment, then don't forget to like and subscribe, because every single like helps. A wee click of the button would help out my channel a lot. I would really appreciate it. If you want to continue the discussion, there's a Discord that's linked down below. I'm on Twitter as well, and there's a Patreon. If you like my content and you want to buy me a coffee, throw a couple of bucks my way. It's €2, £2, $2, whatever your currency is. It all goes towards helping me make these videos more regularly and upping the content, upping the production. Now, I want to predict some things that I know probably won't happen. These are the things that I think won't happen in 2021 for D&D, books, products, tie-in products. So, Dark Sun. Lots of fans, but I don't think they'll re-release any or reimagine any Dark Sun setting because it's too dark and edgy, and the parent company, Hasbro, they're more likely to go for the Transformers, My Little Pony teenage market. And also you combine that with the past 10 years, there's been a shift in the way people market things, and there's been a push of inclusivity and a lot of old legacy IP that's been considered problematic in the past. There's no point revisiting the old stuff when they can just make new, better stuff. That's my opinion. It was of its time, it was a fantastic characterful setting, but it deals with very complex, dark and adult content, which I don't think Wizards of the Coast will want to retread at this moment. The same could be said for the, I forget the names of the modules, but one of them was based around the Alibaba Arabian Nights mythos, and the other one was based in the Asian stereotypes, the Oriental settings, which had a combination of Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Malaysian, all these different Asian countries. They were picking and choosing mythology and other such things, and some of it is a little bit insensitive in hindsight, but I'm not one to judge. That's to do with the company, and if they were to release something like that, it would be heavily modified. It would be controversial, that might drive sales, but like I said, I think they're going to go for the safe option. So, 3 things, the thinking outside the box. These are my 3 wild predictions, which I don't think will happen, but if they were going to happen, I would love it, is Warhammer Fantasy. If there was a crossover between D&D and Warhammer Fantasy, that's fantastic, because I know that D&D has its roots in military wargaming. If you look back at Gary Gygax's old 1970s, I think it was called Chainmail. The original game was called Chainmail, and then D&D was supposed to be a spin-off of that, where they go through the dungeon, and it was focused on 4 players instead of 10,000 characters. So, smaller scale D&D based Warhammer Fantasy setting would be an interesting concept. And the same with The Witcher. I think that the Witcher franchise, the TV show, the book, the games, they were great, but with the books, they're tied into whatever the author wants. He's very particular about the projects he chooses. with the TV show. That was successful, and I could see that being a good reason for Hasbro to be interested in using that IP. The games, CD Projekt Red, with the Cyberpunk debacle that happened last year, it's kind of... they've burned a lot of the goodwill they got from making the original 3 Witcher games. So I don't know if it would be in their best interests to use The Witcher with ties and connotations to that. Well, those are my predictions for 2021. We'll have to make another video at the end of the year reviewing this and seeing which ones I got right, which ones I got wrong, and which ones are completely unexpected. But thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you next time. Bye!